Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to our press conference. I know the weather kept some people away, but I see our good friend Ken Quinn with Convention of States and Michelle are on hand, along with a few other people. And we do have a few people who are expecting to join us. Hopefully there will be before the conference is over. Again, my name is Hal Sherloff. I am the co-founder and director of Camp Constitution that's sponsoring this event. And before I introduce our primary speaker, we also have State Representative Al Baldasaro and Jeanine Notter and Karen Testerman, who should have been the next U.S. Senator from New Hampshire, but that didn't work out. Also, to speak very briefly on the subject, our camp is a New Hampshire public trust, and among other things, we run a week-long family camp. You can see a little sign in front here. I've got information about this great summer camp program. I have some reprints from the New American magazine that deal with why an Article 5 convention is not a good idea. I recommend you take them. They're behind me. And tonight, our keynote speaker here, Robert Brown, will be speaking at the National Library at 7 o'clock. Public invited, and we welcome you to attend. Robert Brown is a constitutional scholar. That usually means he's not an attorney, by the way. Sort of self-taught. He is the creator of The Constitution is the Solution. It's a 6-part series on the Constitution, which is highly recommended. He hails from Montana, and he came all the way here from wintry Montana to sunny Concord, New Hampshire. So let me introduce Robert. Robert.
Thank you, Hal. It's good to escape the Montana winter for a few minutes here. I am traveling around the country this winter talking about the dangers of calling for an Article 5 constitutional convention. This is a convention where the state legislatures apply to Congress to have a convention for making changes to the Constitution. It takes 34 state legislatures to apply for this convention in order for it to happen. And I have a number of concerns that I feel need to be voiced so that people can make a well-informed decision. They really need to hear both sides of this issue. One of the concerns I would echo comes from James Madison, where he's speaking on this topic said that if we were to have as he said, I should tremble for the result of a second convention meeting in the present temper of America. Now, this was in 1788. There was a lot of political uproar going on at the time. And I feel like today's political environment is also one I would be very concerned to see a convention happening in. One of the things also that we point to is that if we look at the precedent set in 1787, when our U.S. Constitution was written, they were given very specific instructions by their states. In fact, speaking of Convention of States, their co-founder, Mark Meckler, in a debate last December said, if you want to understand the authority that the convention delegates had in 1787, James Madison said for us to look to their commissions. And so as I do that, as we look to the commissions of 1787, did they follow those commissions or did they not? And one of the things I'll be showing tonight in great detail is that 9 of the states gave specific limitations on the commissions of their delegates that they must follow the then constitutional ratification process, which was all 13 state legislatures and Congress must approve whatever changes they came up with in the 1787 convention. Yet that is not what happened. The convention at that time, knowing that their amendment proposals would never clear all 13 state legislatures, they discarded the existing ratification procedure that was required by the Constitution and was echoed by the commissions of 9 of the states that attended that convention. They wrote their own rules for ratification. So when people talk about, was the 1787 convention a runaway convention? If by a definition that is exceeding their commissions, absolutely, they did exceed their commissions. In fact, James Madison admitted that very clearly in Federalist 40, where he says, it is admitted that the convention have departed from the tenor of their commission. Instead of reporting a plan to be confirmed by the legislatures of all the states, they reported a plan to be confirmed by the people and only requiring 9 states. So clearly, the 1787 convention ignored the limits of power of the majority of the commissions they were given, 9 states, created their own ratification process, and this sets a precedent that we need to consider today. That if we call a convention today, the states may give all kinds of rules and stipulations for what their power is, but just like 1787, they can choose to discard that power, or those limitations of power, write their own rules, just like they did in 1787. Now, I need to also couple that with one claim that they did not, however, adopt the Constitution illegally. What they did was with authority, it just was not with the authority of the states. They ignored that authority. And again, I turn to Madison, where he says, they appealed to the power of the people to alter or abolish. Now, in our form of government, the power of the people is higher than the power of the states. So they were authorized to ignore the limits of the states by appealing to the power of the people. And again, we could do that again today. I have a lot of concerns of what is being proposed here that is not being accurately represented by considering both sides. So I invite everyone to come out tonight, listen to both sides of this argument, because only then can you make an informed decision on whether this is an appropriate action in today's political environment. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll have questions when,
I gotta go.
Okay.
If I could just ask one question, I'm sorry.
Rob,
We only have one camera,
One
I want to
question
make sure we
here?
get it. Yeah, please. Just, if you can kind of sum up for me the importance of this change and why it's necessary, I'd be highly grateful.
Should I go ahead with that?
Oh, no, go ahead. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. And the real thing that we're talking about here is the number of groups are pushing for various amendments to the Constitution, whether it be term limits or balanced budget or whatever else. There are a lot of them. Some of them sound good, some of them you might oppose. But my statement here is that we don't need to make changes to the Constitution as it now stands. We're not using it properly as it now stands. For example, balanced budget amendment, if we're actually following the limitation of powers as found in the Constitution, it would trim the federal budget by more than 80%. Do you think you could balance the budget at that point? With current numbers, you'd have almost a $2 trillion annual surplus. So I'm really advocating we need to learn the Constitution again and enforce it rather than making changes to it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for the hospitality. Go ahead, Al, please.
Yep.
Yeah, Representative Al Baldasaro, the Vice Chair of State and Federal Relations and Veterans Affairs. We're going to be executing this bill on Thursday. A few years ago, I made an ultimate temporary setback when I approved passed an amendment to balance the budget. After researching, I realized I did the wrong thing. I felt bad about what I did, but it was too late. There is no control. There's no rules. There's no such thing as a limited, Article 5. I mean, I challenge anyone to go into the Constitution and then show me where it says that. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop this here constitutional convention because we can't even get Congress today to comply with the laws of the land. So we're going to do everything we can to try to stop this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Thank you.
I'm Karen Testerman, and I do a radio program. We hold these truths, and basically the whole purpose of my encouraging people to get information from both sides of any issue, to understand fully both sides of the issue before they make a decision, and then to make the decision on their own. It's not up to me to make that decision. It's not up to me to gather the information. As a former founding member of the National Heritage Center for Constitutional Studies, it also gives me pleasure to read this statement from the National Heritage for Constitutional Studies. The National Heritage Center appreciates the frustration felt by constitutional conservatives over the way the government operates currently. We also have a firm respect for the more nationally known leaders of the Convention of States movement. We know them to be well-informed scholars of the Constitution and of the constitutional government. We see the imminent danger over Constitution is in. We can empathize with the urgency of the situation just as others do. We can understand the need to take some sort of action to rein in Washington, D.C., to bring its operation back under the Constitution. Nevertheless, despite the immediacy of the issue, we are inclined to stand with Founding Father James Madison, chief architect of the Constitution, who did not support the idea of an Article 5 Convention of the States. He did not support it then, and we doubt he would do so today. Despite the imminent danger of big government poses to our personal liberty, Madison would question the efficacy of calling together a convention of the states. He would not see it as a fruitful nor timely remedy for rescuing a nation from the strange hold grip of the administrative state, which now engulfs the framers' constitutional republic. Madison would question why 2/3 of the states do not gather outside of the convention and put together an amendment considered necessary to remedy any defect in the Constitution. He would inform the principles of this movement that if they truly seek to secure the safety of the people, their personal liberty, that their time would be better spent preparing the people to enforce the Constitution they already have. Adding or changing the text of the instrument will not overcome a lack of virtue in those that elected to lead. James Madison believed in the great Republican principle that the safety of our nation's Constitution required the protection of a virtuous people with the intelligence to select men of virtue and wisdom. If the electorate was without either, the people would find themselves in a wretched situation, exactly where we find ourselves today. NHCCS stands with Madison. We know the framers of the Constitution built well. Our nation's Constitution is the longest running, most perfectly political document on the face of the earth. Their genius, the intellect and purity of motive it took to compose it, is missing from our culture today. There is nothing to be done to improve the Constitution. It is the culture that needs to be improved. Fix the culture. Leave the Constitution alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And Jeanine Notter, you have any comments?
I haven't supported Article 5. Well, except for that balanced budget, I was misled on that one, and I changed my mind on it. What concerns me is that I think that every lobbyist in the country is going to descend upon this convention that we have one, and they're going to use all their resources to try to convince, get the outcome that they want. Yeah, they could throw out the Second Amendment. I mean, there's just so much that could happen. It just worries me. That's the way to go.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thanks, folks, for coming. And hopefully you make it tonight at the National Library, 2 Court Street, 7 p.m. And thanks, Alan and Karen and Jeanine.
Randall, good meeting, man.